This is Carl Jan B. Pacana, an electrical engineering student, and I'm going to report about Chapter 2.3, the types of publication. Whatever you say may fade away, whatever you write might come back and bite. So this means that whatever words you said can be forgotten easily, and whatever words that you have written will have its consequences because it can be read multiple times. So be mindful of what you have written. The written words can last forever and will be used to evaluate the competence of the author. The works of Newton and Maxwell can still be found in and read by today's scholars, showing the longevity of written works in technical areas. In the electronic age, papers can be published and circulated worldwide within seconds, and it will remain accessible forever. It is important for researchers to write well and understand the significance of written works by others. While some journals only published electronically, the published works cannot be altered once released. Errors are corrected with correction note in the same journal. All science and engineering is based on current understanding of natural laws, and researchers must engage with previously published works of others in their field, even if some earlier concepts have been shown to be incorrect. So, this highlights on the importance of writing skills and longevity of written works in technical areas. And it is mentioned that other authors, namely Newton and Maxwell, are still being their works are still being recognized as of today. And it is important to know that researchers need to write well and understand the significance of written works by others, most especially in their field. And science and engineering are based on current understanding of natural law. And additionally, researchers must engage of previously published work so that it can be the research that they have made would be more effective or be better. So next page. So example 2.2, dismissal resulting from unethical practice. A number of university presidents and high-ranking politicians have been forced to resign or have been dismissed from their positions because it was proved that some of their early students' works was directly copied from others without proper acknowledgement. Preserving your academic reputation is very important for your career. If you use the work of others without without referencing the source and the works you plagiarized were wrong, the profession will judge you either as a criminal or an incompetent. So, in academia, copying someone else's works without giving proper credit or proper acknowledgement will have severe consequences. So, to avoid this, it is important to always acknowledge your sources to avoid plagiarism. Example 2.3, a changing paradigm. Greek philosophers through light consisted of stream of tiny particles, or corpuscular theory. Newton supported the idea, but Huygens advocates wave theory for light. Young and Fresnel explained interference effects using the wave theory. Light was regarded as transverse waves through ether, based on the view that there was no such thing as completely empty space (we call it vacuum) through which light could pass. The ether was regarded to carry the wave. Quantum theory has now replaced all of them. So this explains that the evolution of theories about light throughout history, which is the which is referred to the paradigm on the progress or the change in paradigm or the theories that change over time. And then Greek philosophers believed that light consisted of tiny particles, then came up to the quantum theory that we know today. So, so in figure 2.1 is an example of first page of a referred journal article titled Base Station Tracking in Mobile Communication Using a Switch Parasitic Antenna Array. So that's the only example in the book that I found, and it is an example of a journal article and also a type of publication. So next. So table 2.1 is a broad categorization of publications and their characteristics. A tick I check indicates the descriptor is a valid. A cross indicates that the descriptor is not valid. The symbol check or X indicates the descriptor is sometimes valid. So in table 2.1, list various publication types that researchers can use to discover new ideas. If any of the material from this publication has been used in the research project, it is essential to cite the authors and publications in any reports. The following subsections provide further ideas on each publication category in Table 2.1, outlining commonly accepted practices. However, individuals' publication mechanisms may have variation on these processes. So the information in this section should be taken as a guide only. Prospective authors should review all information provided by targeted publication. So in table 2.1, it provides a list of publication types that researchers can use to find new ideas. It is recommended that prospective authors review all information provided by publication and what they are targeting. 2.3.1 Journal Articles. In the archival literature, referred journal articles are highly valued and considered the most important contribution. However, the time between submission and publication can be quite lengthy, often up to 2 years, and most editors aim to minimize this time as much as possible. A common target for the return of first review of authors is 6 weeks. The delay is mainly caused by reviewing processes, which relies on volunteers. Potential reviewers must be approached and agreed to undertake the review process within the set time frame, commonly 4 weeks. Once the final version of the paper is approved, an editorial committee prepares the paper for publication, which causes additional delays. So, referred journal articles are highly regarded in the archival literature, but their publication can take up to 2 years due to reviewing processes, and it only relies on volunteers. Potential reviewers must agree to undertake the review process within a set time of frame, usually in 4 weeks, before the final version of the paper is approved for publication by an editorial committee, which can cause further delays. So, next slide. Journal articles undergo anonymous peer review by two or more experts in the field who review the work, suggest corrections, and approve it scientifically rigorous. While the review process is not perfect and depends on dedication, ethics, and competence of the reviewers, it is best available source of expertise worldwide. The technical editorial staff of the journal selects the paper reviews, who are expected to have the necessary experience and competence in the research field. So, Journal articles are evaluated through anonymous peer review by two or more experts in the field, who provide feedback, approve the work as scientifically sound. So the journal's technical editorial team selects the reviewers based on their experience and knowledge of the research. So it is commonly be the best available of that time, best available source of that time. So next, once the review has been completed, the associative no, the associate editor will make a decision on the suitability of manuscript for publication. Commonly, the reviewers must decide on one of the following recommendations: accept without change, resubmit with minor corrections, like correction typographical errors, improve the quality of the graphs, add additional information, add references, and etc. C. Resubmit with major changes, additional research work required. Then reject insufficient new materials, scientific errors, flawed methodology, and etc. And reject for the final materials is not relevant to this journal. So, in addition, reviewers of journal articles are tasked with commenting on the research method results and conclusions, as well as reviewing reference lists and providing authors with a list of typographical errors. They may also assess the quality of graphs and figures and evaluate the paper's relevance to the journal to which it was submitted. Based on the reviewer's feedback, the authors revise and resubmit the paper, and further comments may be made by reviewers. The paper will only be accepted for publication if all reviewers are satisfied with the final draft. Afterward, the editorial staff or the journal conducts a further review focusing on questions of clarity and language used rather than technical issues. Additional questions may be asked of the authors during this stage. So, scientific engineering research journals are typically published on a yearly basis, which each issues containing multiple articles. The volume number remains the same throughout the year, while the issue number represents the release count starting from the first issue of the year. Page numbers are sequential and increase throughout the year, with the first article of each issue starting on page 1 and subsequent articles continuing from the last page number of the previous article. So when reviewers are assigned to journal articles, they assess different aspects of papers such as their methods, results, and relevance of the journal. Authors then revise the paper based on feedback and resubmit it. It will be further comments made by reviewers if necessary. The final draft is only accepted for publication if all reviewers are satisfied. So, authors should take care the use of correct journal title, as similar names may exist in different journals as well. So, next slide. These journals often feature the latest scientific and engineering advancement. Through some may also publish review articles that consolidate existing knowledge in the field. Review articles generally do not present new findings but provide an extensive list of references covering recent developments. Certain journals specialize in review articles, such as Proceedings of the IEEE. All papers are subject of independent review before being approved for publication, and scholarly journals are identified by an ISSN number listed in front pages of each issue. Although most journal names are unique worldwide, authors should ensure they use the correct title, as many journals may have similar names. So, in addition to original research articles, scholarly journals may also publish review articles that provide an overview of recent developments in a field. These articles undergo the same rigorous review process of an original research articles before being approved for publication. Some journals specialize in review articles, and all scholarly journals are identified by an ISSN number also. Authors should have take care to Authors should take care to use the journal title. A similar name may exist before. So next slide. Figure 2.1 shows a typical first page of a journal article. The major features revealed on the front page, which are the title of the journal, the title of the paper usually containing more than 10 words, a list of authors, their affiliations, and contact details, an abstract which describes the work and major conclusions, a list of keywords relating to the paper, the submission date, revision date, and publication details, the journal volume number 2, issue number, page numbers, and date of publication are also present in the figure 2.1, but the first page is only shown in the example. The article title is long to ensure its uniqueness. The author's information is provided to enable further communications about the work. The prescriptive title, usually more than 10 words, indicates the relevance of the work of other researchers. An abstract is often available for free on the internet, but there are many costs to access the full paper. Keywords are included to facilitate computer searching, and references demonstrates the foundation of the research in the field. The publication date indicates the priority of the research, and it is used by research community to track its progress. Most articles have multiple dates, with the earliest indicating when the work was completed and submitted, and the latest indicating of the publication. So, in addition, the articles and content is typically divided in sections such as introduction, methods, results, and discussion, with each section clearly labeled and clearly described. So a list of acknowledgements may also be included to recognize the individuals of the organization that contributed to the research as well. So authors must state their paper has not been previously published or submitted elsewhere when submitting it for review. Besides full papers, journals also publish shorter works such as comments, corrections, technical notes, and letters, which are listed in scientific and engineering literature. Readers may find this short paper when reaching for full papers, and it can be helpful to reach for any corrections or updates related to original paper. These additional comments will cite the original paper and undergo peer review. Professional Professional engineering association may also publish magazines containing articles that are reviewed similarly to journal papers but may not be rigorously reviewed. Therefore, readers should exercise caution when citing and reading magazine articles. So, when submitting a paper for review, authors must confirm that it has not been previously published or submitted anything elsewhere. In addition, full papers in scientific engineering journals may also publish shorter works such as comments, correction, technical notes, and letters, which are listed in scientific literature. Professional Engineering Association may also publish magazines containing articles that are reviewed similarly to journal papers, but readers should be cautious when citing and reading them also. So 2.3.2 Journal articles, short journal articles. Journal often accepts short articles in the form of letters, short communications, comments, errata, and notes. The reviewing process for these articles is usually faster with some publications, and only requiring reviewers, the editors, or associated editor. Comments are submissions from the researchers who have read a published full paper and found errors, misinformation, or a review to literature authority. The comment is sent to the original authors for a response, and both of the comment and reply typically publish in the same journal issue. So, short communication, on the other hand, are briefly reports of original research, usually containing a concise description of methods, results, and discussion. They may be used to report preliminary results, confirmatory findings, or negative results. And the reviewing process for these short articles is usually faster, with some publication only requiring review by the editor or associated editor. So short communication typically report new but minor discoveries. Although they can also be used to quickly publish new ideas, both short communications and comments may be assessed only by journal editors or associated editor, and a comprehensive literature review is not always included. Some journals exclusively publish letters, which require authors to submit concise articles with limited word and figure counts. Reviewers are asked to provide a simple yes or no decision on whether to publish without providing feedback to the authors due to space constraints. Letters typically have limited explanations, descriptions, and fewer references than full papers. However, they are often published more quickly than full papers. So, what it is saying on this is correct. Letters are usually shorter than full papers, and are meant to present new ideas or preliminary findings. The reviewing process is often faster, with reviewers asked to make a simple yes or no decision on whether to publish it or not. Letters typically have a limited word count and a smaller number of references than full papers, and they are often published more quickly than full papers. They can be a good way that researchers can quickly communicate their findings to the scientific community. So, next slide. Conf 2.3.3 Conference papers. Scientific and engineering conferences are events where researchers in the field gather to discuss and present their latest research findings that have not yet been published. These meetings can include formal presentations in a lecture room or poster presentations. Researchers are typically required to submit a written paper to the conference technical committee, which is then reviewed for accuracy and relevance. If the paper is accepted, the authors are invited to present their work at the conference. The papers presented at the conference are compiled into a printed record called "Conference Proceedings", which is available to attendees. After the conference, these papers may be published on the web and indexed by scientific search engines, contributing to archival literature. So it is correct that the Conference proceedings are the way of researchers to disseminate their work to a wider audience and contribute to scientific literature. It's worth noting that conference papers are often not subjected to same level of peer review as journal articles and not undergo a rigorous process on review process. However, presenting at conference can still be an important way for researchers to share their work, receive feedback, and make valuable connections with others in their field. So next, researchers often choose to present their recent results at conferences due to shorter time frame between submissions and publications compared to journals. Typically, conference papers are submitted 6 months before the conference and published on the first day of the event. The review process for conference papers is usually brief or even non-existent. If a conference includes a peer review process, papers are assigned to one or two experts who will review them on pass or fail, with only minor editorial changes allowed. As a result, conference publications are generally not rigorously evaluated and should be considered important but potentially less reliable than journal papers, especially for inexperienced researchers. So it is correct that the references conference says provided an excellent platform for the researchers to provide and disseminate their findings quickly and obtain feedback and undergo peer review in a short matter of time. As a result, these findings presented at conferences may be less reliable or subject to more significant errors. Therefore, it is essential to be cautious when citing conference papers and to rely on more extensive studies published in peer-reviewed journals whenever possible. So, in Figure 2.2, it is an example of a conference paper. Note that the paper title is shorter than an author's name and affiliations are given. The paper has an abstract and the paper numbers are given. Commonly, the name of conference does not appear with each article itself. So, this is an example of a conference paper. I can't really read it because it is only an example written on the book, but it is also explained that conference papers are like this and like that, that they are not better than journal articles, but they have a wide scale of presenting their papers and audience to make use of their paper. So figure 2.2 shows a typical first page of full papers as presented at the conference. The major features revealed on the front page include the title of the paper, usually containing more than 10 words, a list of authors, their institutions, and contact details, an abstract which outlines the work and major conclusions, a list of keywords relating to the paper. Conference typically publish their conference proceedings and use an ISBN number rather than an ISSN number, which is used in journals. The volume number will be based on number of volumes published for the specific conference. In some cases, conference presenters may be asked to expand their paper and submit as a journal publication in a special issue. The regular journal paper review process will be followed in this case, but with strict timeliness and submission of the publication. So, next slide. So, let's start with the books. There are three types of books: commonly used by academic in their research. Number one is the textbooks, research books or monographs, reference books. Textbooks are widely used in undergraduate and postgraduate courses and are in important resources for those entering the engineering profession. These books have a broad readership and are often revised and updated to correct errors and included new materials. Textbook titles are typically brief, consisting of 2 to 4 words, and are designed for use in specific courses of subjects and universities and other tertiary education institutions because multiple textbooks may share the same title. It is important to include the author, publisher, and publication date when referencing a textbook. Good textbooks are often undergo multiple editions, and the edition number is an important detail to include when citing a textbook in research publication. Textbooks are typically cover Textbook typically cover the standard experimental, theoretical, and computational techniques used in a field and contain detailed references and bibliographies when writing a research paper. Authors can often use a textbook as a reference for well-established theory, equations, definitions, and standard experimental methods rather than having to restate them in their own words. So, however, it is important to note that textbooks may not always be the most up-to-date source of information, especially in rapidly evolving fields such as in the engineering field. In such cases, it may be necessary to consult recent journal articles or conference proceedings for the latest research and advancement in the research. Additionally, textbooks may have a specific perspective of bias, and authors should be aware of this when using them as a reference. It is also important to check the credentials and reputation of the textbook's authors to ensure their expertise in the subject matter. So books on research are written by experts for a specialized academic audience, providing high-level information on a specific topic. Reference book, on the other hand, typically contain alphabetized index of terms such as dictionaries or encyclopedias. Both papers, both paper and electronic copies of books are carefully examined by professionals before publication. The information in textbook is typically well established in the field and reflects the current understanding of subject matter. The front matter of the book includes the information such as the title, author, pub- publisher, publication, date, and edition number. All of this must be included on referencing the book of paper. So it is also important to note that books can vary in their level of peer review and editorial oversight. While textbooks are typically reviewed by subject matter experts and academic publisher, other types of book may undergo the same level of scrutiny. When using a book as a reference, it is important to note that the author's credentials and reputations of the publishers to assess reliability of the information presented. Additionally, it may be necessary to cross-check information for multiple sources to ensure accuracy and completeness, most especially on publication on journal articles. You need to up-to-date publication on the journal articles to check whether it is reliable or not. So 2.3.5 Standards. The engineering profession uses standards to provide practicing engineers with specific experimental techniques or required specifications. Standard also defines engineering terms to ensure that professionals use them in a well accepted and defined way. It is important for novice researchers to be familiar with these terms and use them accurately in research papers. Engineering standards are continually reviewed and updated by experienced members of the profession in the relevant discipline as technology develops. As a result of this review, some changes may be made previously accepted terms may no longer be acceptable. These changes are made to resolve confusions and add new terms as technology develops. The updated standards are then approved for the use in the field. So, in engineering, standards are used to provide specific experimental techniques and requirements. These standards are defined engineering terms to ensure they are used correctly. So standards are reviewed and updated by experienced professionals, which makes sense, with the changes made to resolve confusion and add new terms as technology develops, with the updated standards approved in the use of the field. So the majority of standards are assigned an ISBN number for identification purposes. The names of committee members who develop the standard are generally mentioned within the standard itself. However, the references will usually the reference will usually to be professional society responsible for its creation rather than to any particular individual or group of individuals. The International Organization for Standards, or the ISO, and the International Electronics Commission, or the IEC, are responsible for maintaining international standards. However, most countries have their own national standards authorities that oversee the development and implementation of national standards. So standards are identified by ISBN number and typically include the names of the committee members who developed them. However, the reference is usually to be professional society responsible for creating the standard, rather than any specific individuals. The ISO and the IEC maintain international standards, but most countries have their own national standards authorities that oversee the development and implementation of national standards. So example 2.4 is an examples of standards. In the IEEE, in IEEE, SA standards definition database are definitions of electronic software engineering terms. In mechanical engineering, the mechanical properties of materials are measured using standard test procedures. In geotechnical engineering, there are standard methods of testing the shear strength of soils. So it is wise for research team to use measurement techniques and numerical computational techniques which are defined by most recent standard. Lesser known measurement techniques might lead to incorrect results which may be compromised to research outputs. Commonly, the standard terms and techniques are reproduced in parts in textbooks, and so seeking the original standards document, often at quite high cost, may not be necessary. So using the most recent standards for measurement numerical computation techniques is wise for research teams. Lesser known techniques can lead to incorrect results and compromise the research outputs. So, obtaining the original standards documents at high cost may not be necessary. So, next slide. 2.3.6 Patents. A patent is a document written to protect an idea for commercial advantage and exploitation. Patents aim to safeguard an invention of innovation from commercial theft and are granted based on their originality, commonly referred to as inventive step. Each country has its own patent assessment process and maintains an inventory of granted patents. Patents are easily accessible through well-biased techniques using keywords, and they often reference previous patents and published literature. Patents are country-specific, that is, nations manage their own patents through a patent examination procedure before the patent is provided. So, a patent is a document that protects an idea for commercial benefit. Patents can be easily searched using keywords and often reference previous patents in public literature. But each country has its own patents and its patents procedure. So it is not really it is a nation most nation managed technique. So in figure 2.3, an example of a US patent. I can't really read it because it is blurry, but that is an example of a patent. Note that the inventors are listed together with their affiliations. The data of filing and previous work are listed. They are previous number codes for the subdiscipline of the invention. The abstract summarizes the invention as well in that patent. So figure 2.3 shows the example of a front-page registered patent from the United States of America. However, the patent format is different from countries. The International Patents Treaty between nations ensures that there are some uniformity between national patent of offices. So next page. A patent is identified by its patent number, submission date, authors and their affiliations, support sponsoring company, a brief summary, and a set of six numerical codes that indicates the field of invention. The field of search codes on the first page of USA patent, shown in figure 2.3, consist of two parts: general subject area code 343 and more specific subclass code 815 that defines the area of antenna with radio cabinet. The previous patents and papers in the area called prior art are also listed under the references cited. The abstract briefly outlines the subject material of the patent. The novelty claims of the invention are listed numerically at the end of the patent together with a series of figures. Figure 2.3 also includes on the classification code H01Q 1/124. Using the index 1 card, I can determine the H refers to the electricity, H01 refers to the basic electric elements, and H01Q defines areas. So a patent include a patent number and all the information based on the figure 2.3. The patent application, the f- no. The prior art and references cited in the patent are listed and the abstract briefly outlines the materials. The, the novelty claims and figures are listed at the end of the patent, and the international classification code can be determined in the area such as electricity and the basic electric elements found on figure 2.3. Scientific and engineering technologies are protected by patents, which can limit their use in research and commercial settings. Unauthorized commercial use of patent is considered infringement and can result in legal action. Patents can be bought and sold, and inventors must be enlisted on the patent. The patent applications are evaluated by the National Patent Office and granted only if they represent an inventive step. The process of containing a patent can take up to 3 years. The awarding of a patent does not guarantee the technology functionality or superiority over existing technologies, and researchers should not rely on patents as a source of scientifically verified advances. Although patents may contain new and innovative ideas, they should be used with caution when reducting conducting literature reviews. So patents protect scientific and engineering technologies, but their use can be limited in research and commercial settings. So the patent application process can take up to 3 years, and patents do not guarantee the technology functionality of superiority. While patents contain innovative ideas, they should be used with caution in putting them as your literature review. So 2.3.7. In many tertiary education institutions, undergraduate, master degree, and PhD candidates must submit this thesis as part of their final assessment. If the degree is awarded, the thesis may be available online and researchable electronically. However, the status of these documents varies by institution. Bachelor's and master's theses are often evaluated on a pass or fail basis and may be revised based on the examiner's feedback. PhD theses are usually revised according to the feedback and are therefore much reliable source of information, and are typically required to publish their work in international scientific literature. So references should be made to publish papers rather than the thesis itself. Theses may contain valuable information about experimental methods and detailed diagrams or drawings. However, researchers must exercise caution regarding the accuracy of this information in thesis, as they may not always be reliable source of information or in knowledge. So, the reliability of thesis as sources of information can vary by institution to institution. So, in order to have a better literature review, you need to using thesis, you need to have a better institution background on who made the thesis. However, PhD candidates are required to publish their work in international scientific literature, so it is the best reference for published paper rather than the thesis itself. So it is much better to use a PhD thesis than the other thesis made by other institutions. So I cannot give you an example of a thesis because some will provide an example of the thesis. So on let's proceed on trade magazine articles. Trade magazine typically features numerous advertisements and some articles written by magazines' editorial staff which cover recent development in a particular sub-discipline or research field. These articles are usually written by scientific reporters rather than experts in the field, and they typically report on information previously released by institute, institutes and companies as statements and other forms of publicity. The articles are generally review articles that summarize recent journal papers and or company releases about new products. Although these articles are informative, they lack scientific and engineering detail and are not particularly reliable sources of new technology. As secondary sources, researchers should cite original articles. So an example of this is in figure 2.4. An example of complete article in Trade magazine. The title is relatively short and the name of the author is not included. Only the name of the brief contact details of the sponsoring organization are given. There are no references in the article, and this is an example of Trade magazine article. Readers will note that the title is relatively short. There is no abstract or summary. There are no keywords, and the other affiliations and contact details are not given. These articles is commonly have few references. So trade magazines can be useful source of information about recent developments in a particular sub-discipline research field. However, it is important to keep in mind that articles are usually written by scientific reporters rather than experts in the field. So they are particularly not reliable source of information when you need an information for an engineering detail, and as a secondary source it is okay, and research should always cite the original articles written when they saw it in a trade magazine. So next is 2.3.9. News articles. Most general newspapers involves the readers with commentary on recent scientific and engineering innovations. As with trade magazines, the articles are quite short, lack details, and have tendency to be sensationalist to sell more papers. These articles do not contain a reflective summary on the research outcomes and so are limited use of a research. So figure 2.5 is an example of an article no, it is an example of a newspaper article related to an engineering discovery. The name of the author is given as the name of the various researchers and their institutions are mentioned in the article. The article is an overview of a number of new developments and has been taken from another publication. This is clearly a secondary source of information. Readers of this article can find more information about the development by searching the archival literature using the names and the keywords. So that is correct that the news articles are typically written for a general audience and maybe oversimplifying it. To learn about recent developments in the field of research, should it the research should always verify the information with primary sources before using it at their own sources. So additionally, news articles are secondary information providers may not provide sufficient details for researchers to evaluate the researchers rigorously. So they should cite the archival literature, the first information on that secondary information of the news article. And so they should be replied upon primary source. I mean, the first source or the primary source of information about that in the news article. So, infomercial. Infomercials are video clips and written articles created by companies to sell their product and showcase their expertise. These articles may contain factual information and specifications but do not typically provide detail about the research approach used to develop the product, as this information could benefit competing companies as infomercials are not subjected to independent expert review. Their claims are often unsustainable and should be used as reference material by researchers. Infomercials can be found in newspapers, trade journals, and websites and are usually labeled as distinct from normal technical content. So this is an example of a infomercial or commercial bank. And infomercials are typically video advertisement on televisions or online platforms which promote and sell products. While they may contain some factual information and specifications, they are primarily focused on marketing. So it is not the best way to cite your sources on infomercial, as infomercials are not subjected to independent expert review as well. Their claims are often unsustainable and should not be used as a reliable source of information, most especially in engineering department or engineering field. So next is advertisement. 2.3.11 advertisement. Advertisement on social media, television, magazines, and newspapers contain little factual information, and claims are not supported by reliable evidence. They have not been subjected to independent review. For this reason, researchers should not use advertisement as reference material. So, in this information, it is correct that you should not use this as your information because advertisements intend just to promote products or services, and it is not reliable. Advertisement may contain exaggerated or false claims and not subjected to the same scrutiny as peer-reviewed articles such as the journal articles or even the short journal articles. It is important for researchers to use credible and verifiable source of information used most especially in engineering department or engineering field. So we have here the Wikipedia. 2.3.12 Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a popular online resource that can be easily accessed through web search engines. It provides information on various topics including scientific and engineering facts, definitions, historical events. The articles are written by public, including experts in the field, and well referenced using secondary sources. However, as anyone can edit the articles, they are subject to change and may not be reliable. Primary source of information, adjuncators, adjuncators monitors the sites, prevent biased or vigorous, frivolous changes, while citing Wikipedia directly is not recommended in the scientific papers. The original sources cited in Wikipedia articles can be useful reference. So it is important to note that Wikipedia is generally a good starting point for research, just like you were in high school or even elementary, maybe. It should be the only source of information. Researchers should always verify the information by cross-checking with the other reliable sources. Additionally, some topics of the Wikipedia may be incomplete or biased because it can be edited by anyone. And it is important to exercise caution and critical thinking when using this site. So, we have here an example of Wikipedia, and it is all about research. So, that is an example of Wikipedia. 2.3.13, which is websites. Web search engines, which are specifically set up to search the referred scientific literature, will yield websites with scientific and engineering information. Novice novice researchers should take care not use the material from websites unless the following guidelines are applied to it. So the authors and their affiliations are clearly found and can be considered reputable. The date of the publication on the web can be found. Some universities and individuals professors publish their lecture notes and laboratory notes on their websites. This can provide valuable research for those not familiar with the field. In most cases, however, there are little new knowledge published on the web as researchers seek to gain credit for their work through referred journals and book publications. So that's it. That's it for my report. Thank you.